talking about Kamala Harris. You know, she's. It really is, to see the media in full-fledged mode here is really stunning. Not stunning, not surprising, obviously, but it still makes me chuckle just because to the degree they once again become the Praetorian Guard for her here and have turned up the, oh no, she's nothing of what you remember her. But and when you stop and you say, well, what has she done? When did she change? Has she come up with some new policy ideas that she supports? She comes out with this ad, her first ad, and she's talking about freedom, which is just laughable. Of course, the freedom she's talking about is not the freedom that we think of when we think about freedom. It's the most absurd political claim ever for coming from her and her party. What kind of freedom is she talking about? The only freedom they want is the freedom to expand their power into everlasting power. She says we choose freedom. But she doesn't say what freedom she's, freedom from freedom for us, choose what we want for our bodies, freedom to not get, gun violence, all this freedom to get ahead, she says. As if we need her for the freedom to get ahead. No. That is part of the DNA of most people who grow up and are born in this country. You and your party consistently stand in the way of that freedom. You stand in the way not only of freedom, but of upward mobility and the things that allow people to get ahead. So this whole first thing of hers is we choose freedom. The only thing standing in the way of most people getting ahead is local and the federal Leviathan government, which she loves, and Joe Biden's been a part of for 60 years. So what is she talking about freedom? She couldn't point to a single example in which she fought for freedom, the kind of freedom that you think about and you talk about. Less taxes, less regulation, less burden, more individual liberty, individual freedom, focus on the individual, sovereign money, low taxes. That's what allows small business and people to get ahead. Capitalism. She hates capitalism. She despises it. She despises upward mobility. She despises individual liberty. Look at their party. So her whole first choice of we choose freedom is laughable, and the media runs with it. So the remake on her is just absurd. She's the same most liberal, dangerous senator as she has been labeled such. Now, of course, you can't find it anymore. They've all taken it down. And she would be worse than Joe Biden. Do you remember when people picked, when before Biden we knew was out, when he first picked her and they first got into office? Do you remember the way the media used to talk about, well, I think she's probably his weakest. I think she's the one mistake he may have made, but let's face it, he's not going to get rid of her. This was back 3 years ago.
Yeah. I remember.
He's not going to get rid of her, but she's definitely the weakest link here.
Yeah.
She can't communicate. I mean, they used to go on and on and on these Sunday talk shows about how she's been a total failure as a vice president.
Ah.
There's not one thing you can point to that's memorable about anything she's done.
Zero.
So just laughable.